That one still sends a shiver down my spine. It was the winter of '86, and I was working the night shift at St. Augustine's Memorial Hospital. Not the new one they built near the highway, the old one, way out past Miller's Creek, half swallowed by pine trees and fog. That place had stories long before I ever clocked in, but I didn't pay 'em no mind. Not back then. I was just a night janitor. Had the graveyard hours, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Most nights, it was just me, a sleepy nurse or two, and maybe a doc catching a nap in the on-call room. The patients, they were mostly in long-term care or the psych ward on the 3rd floor. Quiet floors, if you kept the lights dim and didn't make much noise. Now, here's where things get peculiar. It was just after 2 in the morning, my shift halfway over. I was moping the hallway outside the ICU when the intercom system crackled to life. Now, that thing was older than sin. Half the time it didn't work at all, and when it did, it whined and buzzed like a swarm of bees. But this night, it came on clear. Not a nurse, not a page, just this whisper. Soft, hoarse, almost sing-songy. Room 317, she's not asleep. That's what it said, clear as day. Now, I knew something was off immediately. First of all, there was no room 317. The room numbers skipped from 316 straight to 320 on the 3rd floor. And second, no one was on the intercom. I checked. Nurses at their station were just as confused as me. They hadn't touched it. I chalked it up to a glitch. Maybe interference from the storm outside, but I couldn't shake the cold that ran up my back. An hour later, I was taking a smoke break by the stairwell when it came on again. She's waiting in the dark. Same voice, same soft whisper. This time, I dropped my coffee. Now, I ain't proud to say it, but I didn't go investigate right away. Something about that voice. It was too deliberate, too aware, if you know what I mean. I've heard patients mumbling to themselves, nurses muttering sleep-deprived nonsense into the speaker by mistake. But this wasn't that. This voice sounded patient. But here's where it gets worse. I finally mustered up the guts and went up to the 3rd floor, figuring I'd just prove to myself there was no 317 and be done with it. As expected, 316 was the last door on the left, old Mr. Weller's room. Guy was in a coma, barely hanging on. But then I heard a noise, a tapping, like someone knocking from the other side of the wall beyond 316. There shouldn't have been anything there. That part of the building backed into a sealed wing, abandoned since the late 70s after a fire took out a chunk of the psych ward. Nobody went in there. It was locked up, condemned. I felt pulled toward it. Don't ask me why. Maybe just curiosity. Maybe something worse. Down at the end of the hall was the old staff door to the burned wing. It was chained up, padlocked, rusted over. But the tapping, it grew louder. Then came the intercom again, loud and clear. She's at the door. I swear to you, the damn lights flickered. The hallway turned ice cold. I wasn't alone anymore. I heard a creaking, slow and deliberate. The chain on the door moved, like it had been yanked from the other side. I ran. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ran straight down those stairs, out the back door, and didn't stop till I got to the parking lot. Called my supervisor from the payphone and told him I was feeling sick. Next day, I came back to get my jacket. Security was there, blocking off the 3rd floor. Turns out the nurses had found a door to the sealed wing wide open. Chains snapped clean. Inside, everything was coated in ash, but there was a fresh footprint in the soot. Just one, a bare foot, small, like a child's. I quit the following week, couldn't go back. They say the intercom still comes on at night, whispering things that don't make sense. And now, every time I hear static on the radio, on the TV, I think about that voice, the one that knew too much, the one that wanted someone to open the door. So if you're ever working the night shift at a hospital and the intercom whispers your name, don't answer. Ah, you young'uns think you know fear, huh? Sitting around here with your fancy phones and scary movies. But let me tell you something. There's fear, and then there's the kind that crawls into your bones and stays there. I still feel it when the wind whistles through the trees at night. This happened back when I was about 21. I was working the night shift at an old hospital on the edge of town. Not the shiny kind you see today, no. This was the kind with long, echoing hallways and yellow lights that flickered if you stared at them too long. Built in the 1920s, they said it used to be a tuberculosis ward before it turned into a regular hospital. Place reeked of bleach and secrets. I was just a janitor back then, mopped the floors, emptied the bins, kept to myself. But there was one rule everyone seemed to follow, even if they never talked about it. Don't go near room 6B after midnight. Now, room 6B had a story. Nurses whispered it in break rooms when they thought no one was listening. Supposedly, back in the 40s, a patient named Clara was kept in that room. She had, well, issues. Used to scream every night that someone was ringing a bell in her ear, telling her to do things. Dark things. The staff thought she was just delusional, until one nurse was found dead in the supply closet. Throat slit with a surgical blade. Clara said it wasn't her. Said it was the bell ringer. They locked her in 6B and strapped her down. One night, she bit off her own tongue and bled out. Room's been shut ever since. Now, me being young and dumb, I didn't believe any of it. Stories, I thought. Just old hospital gossip. But one night, just around 1 a.m., I heard it. A bell. Faint, like from down a long tunnel. I was mopping the far end of the 6th floor when it echoed again. Ding, ding. Soft, but clear. I followed it, thinking maybe someone was fooling around. But as I got closer to 6B, the hallway got colder. Not just AC cold, grave cold. Like the heat was being sucked right out of the walls. I stopped outside 6B. The door was chained shut, padlocked with rusted iron. No way anyone was in there. But the bell kept ringing, louder now, and then it stopped. I turned to walk away and froze. In the reflection of the hallway window, I saw someone standing behind me, a woman, hair matted, hospital gown stained. Her mouth was open, but no sound came out. And in her hand, a little silver bell covered in dried blood. I spun around. No one was there. I didn't sleep that day. Told the head nurse what I saw, but she just stared at me and said, "You heard the bell, didn't you?" Turns out, every few years someone hears it. They either quit or worse. I should have quit. 2 nights later, the lights on the 6th floor went out. Entire breaker blew, but only for that floor. I had to go up there with a flashlight, check for patients. Power crew said everything else looked fine. As I walked past 6B, my light flickered, then died completely. I was in pitch black. And then, the bell. Closed this time, right behind my ear. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I swear I felt cold fingers brushing the back of my neck. Suddenly, my flashlight came back on, and 6B's door was open, just open. Chains gone, padlock on the floor. Inside, nothing but a bed and restraints covered in blood. I ran. I don't remember how I made it to the stairs. Quit the next morning, packed up, and never went back. Years later, I read in the paper that the hospital shut down. Said it was structural damage. But some of us know the truth. That place wasn't broken. It was cursed. So next time you hear a bell in the dead of night, don't go looking, because some doors are better left locked.